Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Catalyst Energies. My name is Dee. Thank you for joining me. I am so grateful that you're here for this daily medicine transmission. It is March 3rd, 2021. It is 3-3. And as we know, numbers are important. Let me just fix my hair. How's everyone doing? Thank you for joining me. I actually mean every word I say when I say that I am so grateful that you're here. I'm grateful that I'm here. I'm grateful that we're all here together. So we're going to talk about some things today. Of course, our moon is in Scorpio. And will be all day today. This is really where we start to get a good look at ourselves through the mirror of our relationships. That's the still waters run deep, don't they? And the moon in Scorpio definitely exemplifies that if we so choose to examine ourselves from that perspective. So there's a lot of different interconnecting threads today that I want to talk about, and hopefully they will find a way to weave together as we move through this, because there's just a lot of different things coming up. The main transmission, the main message that came through, and in a very pure, intuitive context, was that those who have eyes to see will in fact see the divine source in everything that is going on, everything. And that requires our own sight and our inner standing, our inner sight, the third eye, the ability to see what is not physically able to be seen. And many of us are coming online and have been for years with our intuitive abilities, more psychically linked, telepathy, just vibing with each other more and more and more. And this actually is the essence of the Aquarian archetype, when everybody is vibing on the same frequency as a result of their own individual nature. And then that's where we really create something amazing. Amazing. So the moon in Scorpio, like I said, still waters run deep. And this is where we really learn about ourselves. So I want to start with the astrology and then bring in the intuitive message, because for those, if you are struggling to see the divine nature and everything that's happening, because we are still struggling, that will become very clear as we look at the reading itself. And the message that came through is that there collectively is still quite a struggle. And there are a lot of exits right now. There continue to be, but a lot of it is people getting pushed to the brink of emotional exhaustion, depression, suicides. I mean, that's been happening for months now. Since last year, it has just been amping up. I mean, March of last year was when things really started, in the United States at least, things really started to take a turn, and we started to get the restriction. And so Saturn in Pisces, that Eight of Cups, I don't want to get ahead of it. Just so you know, though, I mean, we are collectively still, we had a little bit of balance and harmonization emotionally coming into the moment, and then bam, we're getting hit with this exhaustion and just depletion to the point where we are really having a hard time taking ourselves out of it. And we're really struggling to be inspired right now, especially with Sun and Venus and Pisces. That is all about the inspiration and divine inspiration, tapping into that field of consciousness. And sometimes on the surface, it's the ripples, right? It's disturbed and you don't get a clear picture. And this is why I say still waters run deep. And this actually is a great segue into some of the astrological things I want to point out for today. Because not only is the moon in Scorpio, there is this incredible connection to the Draco starseed aspect that we're going to talk about again with the moon and Venus in Pisces and Uranus in Taurus. Mars is going to enter Gemini tonight, 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That also is 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So this evening is when Mars is going to bust through the surface of the soil coming up. And this is when this breakthrough moment really comes about, especially with Mars, okay? Mars is action and penetration and enterprising and courageous and confident, and it is all about potency and desire to actualize. And so it's going to put all of its energy behind, all of its weapons, all of its energy, all of the resources behind popping out and our consciousness finally breaking free of this incubation period that started on January 6th when Mars went into Taurus. So today, not only is that happening, Venus is going to sextile Uranus at the same time where this moon in Scorpio is going to be interacting with all of them. So let's talk about that really quick, because it's really important, because not only are all of these aspects, you can see here, trine to Venus in Pisces, a quincunx to Chiron in Aries. Scorpio and Aries are in a natural quincunx because they both have desire so strongly attached, but for completely different reasons. So they don't often really fit together at all, even though both are ruled by Mars. And then the opposition, the moon's opposition to Uranus. So in this particular degree that we're looking at is the calm lake bathed in moonlight, the still waters that run deep that allow us to get a sense of who we actually are by going into the depths of our feeling, and not just our own feeling, but it comes about as a result of our shared experience. So this trine with Venus, right? Summoning us to the rebirth. We're feeling the call. We're hearing the call. It's becoming more palpable. Venus is our sensitivity to the material world. It is about love and relationships, but it's conditional. Venus is conditional because it's really about the satisfaction of our sensory world and our material world. And it's not to say that it's superficial, because God is the goddess of love is very important, but we also and she also is Lady Justice, right? She rules Libra, and she used her sensitivity in order to feel if those scales are balanced, right? You can't just apply strictly logic. Venus uses her sensitivity to what is harmonious and beautiful to balance things out. And so this trine here, Venus, like I said, we're becoming more sensitive to it. It's showing up in our material world, in our relationships. We want harmony around this, and we can feel the call, the summons to a rebirth and a breaking loose. There is a rebirth that is here on the horizon, and Venus is allowing us to connect to it very creatively, very emotionally. And so a trine to a moon in Scorpio, we're really going to get a lot out of it if we can still the waters of our emotions and allow ourselves to sink into the subconscious realm and really look at ourselves. Allow things to be purged, continue to be purged out, what we don't need anymore. And this is part of the exits. This is also part of the full moon. We're still in that third quarter from the full moon until the third quarter moon that squares the sun. So this time period is about integrating what we learned in the full moon. And as much as Virgo is about going into the depths of who we are to reconstruct ourselves, it's really Scorpio where we see the aspect of ourselves that makes us want to turn around and run away screaming, or the aspect of ourselves that we really don't want to deal with. So we can use this energy today to stabilize us as we feel the call and be very sensitive. There are new connections that are building right now. And that's why if you have the eyes to see all three of them, right, then you will be able to see these new connections being created right in front of us. And we can't really do that again if we're continuing to output. There is a really strong sense of pulling back right now and going deep within, which is what the Scorpio moon usually represents. And anybody with that, fixed energy, especially Scorpios, you know what this feels like. And so sometimes this can be brooding. Sometimes this is very, very dark because the moon is at her detriment in Scorpio, right? She is in her exaltation in Taurus, in opposite sign. So the moon wants to be held and contained by our family and our familial bonds and our personal power, our root structure. In Scorpio, she is just left to sink. And if we are not capable, or we are not aware of how to get back up to the surface, this is some real darkness can come about here. Like I said, a quincunx to Chiron, that is, that's just again, we there's already shame and doubt and guilt about allowing in new energy, influx of new energy. There's already shame and guilt, like I said, with Chiron. But this quincunx is not about, you know, for as much as we are allowing in new spiritual energy, and also in this probationary period, like we're being protected, it's being mitigated, right? Early Aries, it's still very fresh and new. And with Scorpio, though, the reason they don't fit together, Scorpio's going into the depth, right? It's sinking down into the depth of feeling, not actualizing through our will that Aries represents. And so these things are just not going to fit very well together. And then we have the opposition to Uranus, who is what, you know, consistently, this is the radical transformation. This is the illumination that is triggered by this radical transformation. In Taurus, again, about the actual unfolding of the physical material process and being able to identify what's coming, because we understand the larger cycles. And it's through the disruption of these aspects through Uranus, right? Uranus is a planet that's turned on its side. Its north and south pole are actually facing in a horizontal way. And so if you think about when your mind gets totally bent or flipped, this is usually when the gateways open and you see things from a new perspective. This is a big one. And again, this opposition. So we want calmness, still waters, so that we can get into the depth of who we are with the moon, right? In an opposition to Uranus, it's like, well, there is no, I'm going to consistently provide, ripples in that, and consistently disrupt it and turn you on your head and dunk you under the water consistently, so that you have to really work at creating that stillness in your emotional field. It's really going to be a challenge. And all of these aspects are all Draco starseeds except for Chiron. But Uranus, Scorpio, and Venus, where they're all at, are Draco starseed markings. And so again, it's really bringing in, you know, there's a cunningness and a cleverness that the Draco starseed archetype really holds, and it's very emotionally and artistically rooted and very powerful. But it's really about getting into just using our cleverness and using that, you know, that really strong desire mode, right? Draco is the dragon, right? It's utilizing that really strong desire to get something, using it in a way that is actually for the benefit of ourselves and for the whole. This is the Draco starseeds, especially where Uranus has really been asking those of us who have, and it's a very small window, there aren't many, and those starseeds who have not come to terms with their mission are very easily pulled into, you know, the darkness, quote unquote. And there are many out there that are unwillingly and unwittingly participating, and they're probably Draco starseeds because they are very focused on what they are trying to get. So there is a sense of cleverness and cunning in terms of camouflaging ourselves today as well. And this also can be brought into this whole astrological dynamic that the moon in Scorpio, right? If you sink down under, I mean, you're kind of hiding down there too. Nobody really knows that you're there, especially if it's still. And this goes both ways, you know, swamp creatures or not. This is definitely applies to everybody here. And that's the thing about astrology. It's all about how you harness these potentials in any given moment that makes the difference. So, like I said, and then Venus is going to sextile Uranus. So feeling the call, feeling the summons, we're very sensitive to it. I think there is a certain amount of inspiration that we want to find that we're kind of lacking right now. And this is, again, why slipping in and sinking into the depths is really going to allow us to connect to this without having to do anything right this moment about it, just to feel it and to let it fill us and be sensitive to it, right? Venus pulls in. She's magnetic. She attracts, right? She's not acting on anything. She's just feeling this inspiration. She's feeling this call. And Uranus here in this sextile, we have to participate in some way. And I think the participation really comes from over here with the moon in Scorpio in this moment, like letting the emotional waters be very calm so that you can get a deeper perspective on who you are and how you feel, and each of us individually feels. And that way we can manage when Uranus is, again, tipping everything on its side and, making our world so just disrupting everything. So by the end of today, Mars will move into Gemini. So it is now at fixed star Asean. So let's look at that. I want to show you something because this was also the thumbnail image for this video, not the reading. We'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so this is from the Lascaux cave paintings in France, okay? If you're familiar with these are some of the oldest renderings of artistic renderings that we have excavated archaeologically so far. This cave painting is 17,000 years old, okay? You're looking at 15,000 BC, 14,080 BC, something like that. It's incredibly old, and it's very detailed, and it's very artistic. It's just very well done. And I want to point out to you, and there is something going. These people certainly saw. They looked up and they saw it. Here's the Pleiades right here, the Pleiades star cluster, right? Now, there was only 6 stars visible to the naked eye in ancient mythology, cosmology. There were 7 sisters, but only 6 were visible. And there's usually some measure of explanation to where that 7th one is, because you don't see it, but they know that it's there. How do they know that it's there? These are good questions, aren't they? So in the constellation of Taurus, the 7 sisters, or the Pleiades star cluster, is in the shoulder of the bull. And so you can see in this cave painting that is 17,000 years old, you know that this is a bull. This is a very obvious bull, and there's the Pleiades right over the shoulder of the bull. These people, whoever they were, they had eyes to see. They looked up and they saw, and then they put it down on this cave painting. So that itself is just interesting to me, that even 17,000 years ago, they still had this context and perspective to work with the Pleiades and everything, right? The artistic rendering of their life, and then to have the Pleiades be so accurately depicted in this cave painting is just remarkable as far as I'm concerned. So let's talk about where Mars is, and let's talk about fixed star Asean and the Pleiades, because it does actually have something to do with sight, okay? So first of all, Mars is going to move into Gemini. So 0 degrees Gemini is actually fixed star Asean. And Asean is part of the cluster, and she was considered like the head of the sisters, the 7 sisters, right? So the 7 sisters were being pursued, and this is in many different cultural contexts. The 7 sisters are pursued by Orion. Let's just use the astrological context right now, which is Greek and Roman. Orion is pursuing them. Jupiter puts them into the sky, but they are sorrowful, okay? The Pleiades in ancient astrology, as a fixed star cluster and how it's related to the astrological chart, was often very, as much as there's ambition and optimistic nature and peacefulness, it also was very turbulent and can cause blindness and violent death, okay? So when people read the astrology charts with these fixed star points, there was always, sidereal astrology tends to be a lot more, hey, just as many bad things can happen as much as the good things. And so there's a lot of distinctly evil aspect connected to the Pleiades, which is very interesting to me, considering how the star race, right, the star seeds, the Pleiadian star seeds, and the Pleiadians themselves are so loving, and it's really about a balanced heart chakra. But, and that's to say that there is optimism and peacefulness and ambition and success in agriculture through active intelligence, right? This is all aspects of Asean in particular. And so Asean was like the head sister, daughter of Atlas. They were sorrowful because they had to watch their father Atlas hold up the world, and it really, really made them upset and sad. Plus they had to, be sent up into the sky forever because they were being chased down by Orion, the hunter. So this is where Mars is right now. And Alcyon represents all of the Pleiades, okay? And so the Pleiades in general has been noted as not good for eyesight and disturbance of proper sight, injury to the eyes, and blindness. So when Mars is at this point, it's like when the sprout finally pops up out of the soil and is exposed to light for the first time, this can cause some serious disturbance in our eyes, right? And we can't see because we're blinded by it, because this is the first time that this life form, it's like, being born in some ways, the first time that this life form is exposed to the light of the sun, and it's so powerful and overwhelming that it's blinding. And so with Mars coming into conjunction with this point and so close to popping out into the light, there is such a strong potential here to be blinded by this light. And it's important right now that we almost in some ways camouflage ourselves from this experience. And this is why the moon right now in Scorpio, for as transient as it is really important to get into. Now there's, like I said, there's a lot of positive aspects connected to Alcyon. But it really, it's especially with Mars connected to it, it's not a very favorable position. It usually means there's death around the corner. It usually means that there is some affliction. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see some massive breakthrough that does require a letting go of something that has died. Now, people that have this in their chart, they have a special gift for bringing out the spiritual significance of death as a transition, right? And so, Alcyon, it also rules the base of the neck, and so it's a major connection to the central nervous system. Gemini is the nervous system functioning, sensory and perception, right? Curiosity, discovery, exploration, communication, movement, telepathy. But really, at first moment where the sprout pops up out of the soil, out of the darkness, is the first exposure to light, and it can be very blinding. Okay, and I'm really feeling that there will be much of this to the point where people are already feeling it, that they can't see. They can't see what's around them because they're trying to use the same organs that are now blinded by this new revelation, this new light that's coming in. And it's not really even coming in. It's just that we are coming out of our slumber. We're coming out of the dark soil in order to start reaching for this light, just like a plant seed does. If you ever, if you garden or farm, you know exactly what I'm talking about. When that seed finally pops out of the soil, it's when the sun starts coming into Gemini. That's about the time. You pop your seeds early to mid spring. Okay, I just got so distracted thinking about farming because I miss it so much, and I can't wait to get back to growing things on a regular basis. So blindness, there will be some measure of death. There will be some measure of transition. We've known this for a while. This is not new information. So I just wanted to bring that into the fold here to know what to expect and show you as well that thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, they were already hip to this, and they just looked up, and that was enough for them to see. And I'm sure that there were an understanding as well, because again, how did they know that there were 7 sisters when they can only see 6 stars? That says a lot to me as well. And so you could go all day on your theories about what that represents. So the astrology today is very strong. And there are new lines of communication at work here. One more thing. Let's look at the chart one more time, and then we'll get into the reading. There's just a lot to cover today because this is a big moment we're about to break through. Window capture. There we go. So the other thing, I want to move ahead a little bit today, a couple hours, is that the moon is then going to trine the sun, 14 degrees of Pisces, 14 degrees of Scorpio. There are new lines of communication being created right now, okay? There is, there is a lot of protection, and this is where that conversation comes in, because, there's new connections being installed as we speak, right? We're talking about new channels of communication, new modes of communication, new information about to come to light, right? Could be blinding. And Mars is not able to move forward if he's blinded. So again, the eyes will need to adjust after being in the darkness for so long. Okay. Here's the thing. We use our intellect. We use that cunning. See, there's that Draco starseed aspect that's coming in really strong now. We use those aspects to protect ourselves and shield ourselves to a certain extent, to camouflage ourselves, to hide our central will while these connections are being made. And if they are being made under the surface, they're being made outside. And if you're blinded, you don't even know this is happening. So again, this is why it's really important you get tuned in energetically and intuitively and emotionally to what is happening under the surface, and use our camouflage and our intelligence. Remember yesterday, that ancient sword in the museum, right? What is the sword but our mind and our intellect? It's showing the spiritual will as the ultimate, the will, the power of the will is the ultimate spiritual weapon. And now we want to hide it. Not to say that we won't bring it out, but we want to not be blinded by the light. And so we want to camouflage ourselves. We want to shield ourselves. Mercury is a watchdog now, standing guard of our mind and our communication. We do feel that things are moving, and Mars is moving into this position. Tomorrow, Mercury and Jupiter are going to meet. A man's secret motives being publicly unmasked. I talked about this in the astrology report. This is Is this a potential boomerang effect? Who knows? Mercury was at this position 2 other times, and they were on really important times. One was the day before the inauguration. The second time was in the middle of the impeachment trial. It was actually the day that the defense was giving their case for the lack of constitutionality for impeaching a former official, right? That was retrograde. And so now Mercury comes back and meets Jupiter. Oh, expands on this news so much, but blinded by the light. We have to find a way to camouflage ourselves and to be patient, okay? We really want to be inspired into action, and we will have so much time to do that, but we're still working with things. Some things are not fully purged out of the system yet. We have not seen everything that there is to see. And this is what the moon in Scorpio is allowing for today. So let's look at here we go. Let's look at the reading because I want to show you. Let's look at it. I want to show you exactly what's going on here. So, all right, I can make my face just a little bigger. Okay, so let's look at this. So we see some cups, the 3 of cups, and at the center here we have the 8 of cups, and it's reversed. So this is even, more devastating than when it's upright, because either way you look at it, it's still a total exhaustion. We've reached a point where the delusions have lost all of their grandeur, right? The illusion is like exhausting, and we are tapped. When it's reversed like this, we are really not getting over the hump. And this is where depression, suicide, laziness, slothfulness, right? We don't want to do anything. We are just like stuck. Saturn in Pisces, right? The pressure and the form and the structure is just, soaking up all of the moisture, and there's just nothing left. And this is the heart of the moment. We have the chameleon, right? About the camouflage. That was a big one. Hilarion has come back, but really the outcome here is so much better than we could have ever imagined based on what we are working with at the moment. And it requires that, again, that we do some deep research, that we're honest with ourselves, that we're open to new understanding, and then we're ready to move with it when it's time. And this requires inner sight. This requires the activation of the pineal gland. It requires the activation of the third eye. It requires that we are absolutely in charge of our own energy field and not giving our power away. But this also means that we're meant to, there's still more to do. There's still more digging. There's still more discovery. There's still more research. It's not time to output. Not yet. It's so close, right? It's so close. So let's look at this one step at a time here. The Three of Cups. Let's look at it. All right. Here we go. So the Three of Cups, this is Mercury in Cancer. Abundance, right? This is, there's a goal. We found our goal emotionally, and there's an understanding and a realization of our emotional security, right? Cancer energy, right? It's contained, it's familial, it's intimate, rootedness, personal power. So there's fullness here. We come to a conception of some sort, emotionally. Like I said, the undirected love, the two is that first differentiation. It's found its goal. It's found its focus. The three is very structurally sound. It's a moment of progress. And Mercury is about the mind and and knowledge and learning and communication. So we have this sense, right? Sense and perception of abundance in an emotional way. Look, everything is flowing beautifully. The water is clear. It's got these, the lotus flower is yellow. It's just a very pleasant energy. The water is this beautiful blue indigo color. There's just so much going on here that really shows us that we have everything we need. But it's still at the beginning stages. It's just that first realization, that first conception of emotional security, abundance, right? Well, come right into the moment here is, oh boy, I want you to move. Here we go. The Indolence, the Eight of Cups reversed. Now, we already know, like I said, when it's upright, this is not an easy energy to deal with. The delusions have lost all of their attraction now because they have drained us dry. But when it's reversed like this, we're not learning anything either. It's really, really heavy. We're very much mired down and stuck. Depression, suicide, instability. And the one that sticks out the most for me is whining. Oh my gosh. The amount of negativity that I have seen in certain social media outlets, in terms of chat rooms and channels and whatnot, just in general, right? Just observing. There is a lot of whining, and there is a lot of the delusions have lost all the attraction because people have been following false light this whole time, and now they're pissed when things are not turning out the way someone told them that it would, instead of following their own guidance and really connecting into divine source and letting that be your guide. So at this moment, indolence means being lazy, right? So you're and that's what happens with depression. It makes you slothful. And it's not because you're a bad person or you're lazy in and of itself. It's the depression just zaps all of your energy to even do anything. And a lot of people are starting to get to this point because they had this moment of abundance, like conception, a fullness, an understanding of oh, this is what it feels like to have this sense of emotional security and abundance. And then bam, right here where we are, it's just like everything's been dumped out and we are getting really unstable with it. And there's just a lot of whining. And then the dark side, especially with the moon in Scorpio, is the depression and the suicide, just going into the darkness along with this. Okay. So it's important that we understand where where things are in the present moment, so we understand what we're working with. And if you are blinded by the light, then you are not this just gets worse. Okay. In our awareness, our conscious awareness, I think that we are not feeling very inspired. Not everybody feels this way. And it's coming, right? So when the muse, which is a very Piscean thing, is in this position, there is a low ebb of our creative potential at the moment. We're not feeling very inspired. We might have writer's block, essentially, or outside obstacles in some ways. And so there's still labor pains to what we're attempting to create right now. And we definitely see this. Now, there may be a reason for that. And we're going to see that there probably is a reason for that. And so, but when this is at the top of our awareness, coupled with this sense of indolence and depression and just completely drained and tapped emotionally, this can make us feel even more distraught, even more depressed, because we're not feeling it. And we had this experience of feeling it in a very simple way already coming in to this moment. And now we're just like, I don't feel any of it. I'm completely tapped. And you do know that this is where your faith is really tested. It's not when it's good, not when you're getting everything you want. It's when you have to hold out and trust God, trust divine source, trust however humanity, right? Trust whatever it is that you identify as bigger than just you, that is part of this process, whatever this process is, the evolution of humanity, the ascension, however you want to look at it, right? So our personal power, though, is rooted here in this beautiful openness to understanding. So this Queen of Scrolls, I mean, you do see that she's got this really thin web in front of the scroll, and she's got her third eye turned right on. She represents us, or actual people. And so where the gain comes from is a rooting into being this person, embodying this person, engaging with somebody in your life that is taking on this role, bringing important information to you, okay, inspiring you. And the purpose is to help move through the entryway to a new level of wisdom, crossing the threshold to a new level of wisdom and understanding, because we can't really get it from where we've been necessarily. So there is a phase of deepening understanding right now, and a readiness to learn. If we can tap into this, the gain that we can have in our lives is substantial. So, but we have to open the door to the mysteries and step through it. And this person, whoever this person is for us, if it's us, it's somebody in our lives, if it's just a generalized feeling, it's important that we are rooting into this place in order to move past what is a complete tapping of our emotional energy right now. And, a really hard time feeling inspired, but that's because we're trying too hard. If we allow this information to come to us, if we root into this place, again, the Queen is the water energy. It is the feminine energy. She attracts, she pulls you in, right? Allow that to happen so that you can get insight in a way that maybe you haven't. Again, there are those lines, the lines of communication, the new lines of communication being created as we speak, okay? They're under the surface. They are not available to those who don't have the eyes to see, okay? Now, here's the gain, right? The 9 of discs, Venus and Virgo. This is, gain, like I said. Gather in all of your crops. You are satisfied. There are rewards for your accomplishments, all of the wonderful things, health and well-being, all the Virgo things pulling in. And remember, that was the full moon was in Virgo. So this whole week we are working with what we discovered and the culmination point. And this is, 9s are always a culmination point, all right? Everything has been pulled in and there's a completion of a cycle. There's the top of the cycle, and then the 10 is the point where it comes back around. So everything that we've been working on within ourselves, right, is going to come to this fruition, but we have to be willing to, open our third eye, basically. We have to squeegee that third eye, as Bill Hicks has said, in order to be able to really see. Because otherwise, we will be blinded with our regular eyes and not see the powerful light that we are exposed to after we pop out. Again, Mars coming into Gemini on fixed star Asean, right? With the Pleiades, there is that blindness there, but there's also optimism. It's just Mars makes it really difficult because Mars is just like, bah. So keep that in mind as well. There's going to be that energy behind it with Mars, and it's really going to push. And it's really going to push hard, and you're not going to be able to see where you're going if you're blinded. It's like driving into the sunset. It's like you can't see anything. You're going to have to learn to use something else. Okay? So when we're having a hard time feeling inspired, well, here's Hilarion again. It was in our reading yesterday in terms of where we are rooting ourselves. So this is a reminder that we need to get into the research, right? Hilarion is the master, ascended master of research, truth, science, logical mind, concrete knowledge, spirit communication, right? He's not distracted. Look at him. He's getting down into it, right? This is, again, we got to learn. There's more to learn. There's more to perceive, right? Again, for those who have eyes to see, that's going to also include being able to see truth when we've come across it, being able to use our logic, understand concrete evidence, when we come across it, and not explain it away, or not just, we have to be willing to look at all the streams of information. And that's what Hilarion represents. So if you're feeling uninspired and you got that writer's block or whatever it is, it's come back around. It's time to do more research. Okay. Now, this is where it gets interesting, is the chameleon came out. And I was just like, oh, that's really interesting about staying in the background. But that's really what the reversed muse is about staying in the background, the camouflage. And that is where the sun is today, too. The sun at 14 degrees Pisces is, the Sabian symbol is a woman wrapped in a fox fur stole, okay? But it's the idea that the fox is very clever. It's a very clever animal. And so what you're doing is you're wrapping yourself in your cleverness and your intellectual prowess in order to shield and protect yourself, while these new lines of communication intuitively and psychically and within ourselves are being built right now. And so while that's happening, we're shielding ourselves, we're camouflaging ourselves with our own intelligence, right? And we can't do that unless we are actually willing to go into that space of truth and really keep researching and using the scientific method and logic, as well as our intuition, to camouflage ourselves, disguise ourselves. There's some shape shifting here. And intuition, perception, we can't have any of those things unless we kind of take a step back. Again, that's where our attention is the fact that we need to take a step back and adapt and blend in and allow our own mind in some ways to shield us while things are happening under the surface. Again, I know there's a lot of different points here that are converging that seem like they're separate. And by the end of the day, they're going to make a lot more sense to all of us, including myself. Having the eyes to see is the main takeaway. And now we have the Falcon with the Queen of Scrolls, the Falcon. So this is about acting on opportunity that's before you and commit to it. But again, the eyesight, right? The Falcon has observational skills that are well beyond any human. Opportunity, precision is a big one too. And then when you see what it is that you're going for, you are ready to act on it without having to think about it. Right? So we're waiting and looking and sharpening our discernment and squeegeeing that third eye today, so that when the light is so bright that we're blinded, we are not relying on that. Okay? We're not relying on what we have relied on this whole time in order to see what's happening, which is God at work everywhere, right? Those who have eyes to see. Perceptiveness, right? The Falcon, that bird's eye view, and also it's a hunter. It's a predator. And so its eyesight is out of this world. And you'll know exactly what you need to hone in on in terms of information, in terms of wisdom and deeper understanding when you are able to have this sight. Okay. Now, the thing also, Raphael came out, and when Raphael, number 8, right? So we have these 2 8s. When 8 is reversed like this, we know that there's something that needs to be healed. We do. And something is really bothering us. And so what we're not using all of our resources to fix it. We want a miracle to happen, but we're not actually engaging in the process of a miracle happening. And so we need to know, how are we going to know that the miracle is even happening if we don't have eyes to see, right? If we have not allowed ourselves to engage with the deeper wisdom and knowledge that is being presented to us as the Queen of Scrolls, whatever. It's going to come to you in ways that you probably didn't even understand. And Raphael actually comes as a human a lot of times in terms of guidance. And so we're looking for a miracle and we're not getting it, but that's because we're really not able to, if we can't fine tune that inner sight, we're not going to see it and we're not going to know. And so we'll be waiting for this miracle and be, indignant that it hasn't arrived in the way that we think, but that's because we have been blinded. And it's not, and it's going to get, I don't want to say it's going to get worse, but again, the light is going to get stronger, and you're going to have to, if you want to be able to still navigate through this, you're going to have to let go of those eyes that are blinded. And you remember in the movie Beastmaster? Oh man, I'm really dating myself now. The original Beastmaster, right? He was able to, see through the eyes of all the animals, and so he's always seeing through his Falcon eyes, and that's something that's coming through really strongly right this moment too. Not so much Beastmaster, but it was a good analogy so that you can see that it's really about that inner sight and that spiritual sight, because otherwise we're going to be blinded, and we need to make sure to a certain extent that we have able to see with something way sharper and perceptive than what we usually do. And this card, people, again, if all you have to do is just kind of observe the tone of some message boards and channels and group chats and just in general, and you'll see that people are really feeling that eight of cups, and they are losing hope. They're getting depressed. People are exiting, and it's because they're looking for something to provide them a miracle when in fact it's right here in front of them the whole time. They just don't have the eyes to see it, and that's going to get worse, which is why it's so important that we are doing the work internally right now in order to cultivate the third eye, right? And there's a lot of new age hijacking around all of the chakras and the energy associated with it that the Christian community needs to get over to a certain extent, because they're going to miss the boat if they don't learn how to manage their energy and just chalk it up all to satanic chalk it up to all satanic practices, because that's not how you shield yourself. And that's not how you protect yourself. And this is how you actually get taken over or deceived, is when you are not taking responsibility for your own God-given energetic field and aura. So that's a whole topic that I'm going to talk about at some point, is hijacking of these practices and how it actually did exactly what it was meant to do. So that's for a different day. Thanks, guys. This is the transmission for today. If you're interested in reading energy work, you can go to catalystenergies.net. That is in the description box below. You can find us on Telegram and Facebook as well. BitChute, if you're into BitChute. If you are watching this on BitChute or YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button. It really does help independent content creators like myself who are not monetized to still get their information and their content available to a larger audience, because as I say every single day, YouTube is definitely stifling independent content creators whom they can't make tons of money off of, and do not push their content out unless people like you say that they like it, and then they will be more willing to do so. So that's one way you can help as well. And yeah, You guys, take care of yourself. This is a big day into tomorrow. This window is a breakout moment, and right now, still, we are. This is time to squeegee that third eye and make sure that our sight is exactly on. Our sights are focused in on where we want them to be, and at the same time, camouflaging ourselves so that we are not vulnerable to everybody else's. We're not exposed to everybody else as well that doesn't have the best intention in mind. So reach out if you're interested in anything I have to offer. And really, I'm just here to facilitate the activation of our highest potential. I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. I'm not here to spoon feed you the work. I'm here as a facilitator to activate your own perfection, basically. So you guys have a great day. Thank you so much for stopping by. I love you all very much. And I will see you on tomorrow's transmission. Bye.